Hi, and welcome to Agile Basics. In this lesson, we're going to show you the foundations of Agile so you understand what Agile is all about, valuable sprints, and then dispelled myths. First, let's talk about the manifesto. The manifesto was brought into being in 2001 with a meeting of the minds in Snowbird. Here, you had experts from Scrum, XP, and DSDM come together, and what they did was they put together 14 principles as well as a value statement, which is the foundation of Agile that we know today. The value statement simply says, while we find value in items on the right, we value items on the left more. So let's take a look at the first one. The first one is individuals' interactions over processes and tools. This is because people are the ones who get the work done. And in the end, it's our interactions with each other that can exchange the most information. No tool or process can ever carry as much information or be able to convey the intent as much as a one-to-one conversation. So we start with this belief that we want people to interact and not to use processes and tools to supplant that kind of productivity on a project. Then we want to emphasize working software over comprehensive documentation. Working software is a goal. It is not to deliver a document. In the end, we want to build a system that is valuable and that can actually help the organization achieve new capability. So we always want to make sure that when push comes to shove, we're going to be building the system, not documenting it. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't documentation, and this is often a point on Agile that is lost among new practitioners. Documentation is critical, and in fact, you'll get better documentation with Agile because we document as we go. However, we'll never let it get in the way of completing the project. Next, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Customer collaboration is essential. In the end, the customer is on your team in Agile, and you only go to the contract when something goes wrong. Contracts are for risk management. The customer collaboration is how you create a long-term relationship that's going to allow you to have value in multiple projects. Any contractor that's in it just for this project is taking the short view and not going to end up being as successful in the long run. And then finally, responding to change over following a plan. No plan survives first contact with the enemy, in order to quote Eisenhower, who made that famous back in World War II. However, we need to also understand that plans allow us to predict what's coming and to coordinate our work. So we do still plan. In fact, we continuously plan in Agile, but we always emphasize responding to change because of the fact that we know those plans are going to change and we're going to learn as we go. If we were to follow the plan that we came up with at the beginning of the project, it would have been like we learned nothing while we were building the product itself. So these are the core values of Agile, and if you understand them, then you understand how Agile works and why we've built it the way it works today. Now let's talk about Sprint Basics. With Sprint Basics, you've got the planning, the development, and the retro and review. The planning begins where the product owner has organized all the work into a backlog. That backlog can have issue types, which include features, bugs, and stories. That work has been planned, but it hasn't yet been reviewed by the team. And so in the next stage in sprint planning, the product owner will present the stories, and the team will then select together from the top of that list what work they think they can get done during the sprint. The sprint is only 2 to 4 weeks, so they have to be conservative in terms of what they can get done and commit to getting the work done. During this process, the team will ask questions, they'll elaborate on the requirements, and by the end, they'll have a clear understanding of what it's going to take to complete each story. And when they do, now they can move forward knowing not just what the story is going to take to develop, but also what it's going to take to test and close. Then in development, the development begins with a stand-up. The stand-up is where everyone gets together, and for 5 to 15 minutes at most, they report on what they're going to be doing today to advance the stories on the sprint. Normally this is done around a Kanban board. The Kanban board provides a means to understand what work is in progress and who's working on it. During this time, the team will continue to work throughout the 2 to 4 weeks, and they'll be completing stories. They'll be analyzing the requirements, developing the work, and then testing and closing them. They're going to be trying to work story by story because you don't want to have too much open work at once. And by the end of it, they're going to have a potentially shippable increment. This potentially shippable or releasable increment is going to be a piece of completed work that includes documentation as well as a fully tested working product that the product owner can show. And that's when the retro and review come in. So the review is where the product owner presents the great work that their team has done. Oftentimes this product owner is the client or a client representative. So this is a great opportunity for the client to show off to their stakeholders and peers how well their project is going. At this point, the stakeholders give feedback and the team can learn what they need to do next. In addition, the team will then go into a room where they play a game in order to expose all the things that went well, what didn't go well, and what they need to improve on next time so that they can make an even better sprint happen. This is a very exciting process. It happens very quickly, and within a couple of sprints, you're going to have a very high-functioning team. Hi, I hope you're enjoying this free lesson from the University of Maryland's Project Management Center for Excellence. If you want to check out more lessons just like this one, click the link in the description below where you'll be able to go to our website on executive project management. There, you can find edX courses, professional short courses where you can learn from an instructor like me, as well as request custom team training for you and your organization. All right, let's get back to the lesson and I'll see you at the end. Now let's talk about the comparison between Agile, Lean, and Traditional. It all begins with the iron triangle. The iron triangle is our constraints between scope, schedule, and budget. Normally when you change one or two, you have to change the other. This push and pull effect is something that we understand if we've ever been to a restaurant, where oftentimes they'll say quality, service, or speed, pick two. Well, in this case, we understand that as scope, schedule, and budget. So we pick two to hold and we vary another. With Agile, what we're willing to vary is scope. Now, it doesn't mean that we're going to vary the goal, we're going to vary the technical scope. In order to do this, your customer really has to trust you. They have to believe that you know what you're doing, especially from a technical level. So trust is the primary thing that a customer looks for when they're sourcing whatever contractor or team is going to be doing the work. And in the end, the goal is speed. And the reason why scope adjustment is so effective for speed is that there's no way to achieve a project faster than figuring out what work you shouldn't do. So by limiting the work that is focused on and only doing the important work, we can move quickly. Then in traditional projects, what we're going for is not speed, but we're actually going for is predictability. Here, what we're willing to vary is the budget. So oftentimes this is, I know what I want and I know when I want it, but I want you to give me the best price. This happens whenever, say, we're building a house or building a really large project and it needs to be delivered on a certain deadline. In these cases, where predictability is the goal, we're looking for efficiency in our contractors. We want them to give us the best price possible or to be able to do it with the least amount of waste. And then with lean projects, we're willing to vary the schedule in order to achieve some kind of problem-solving event. Oftentimes this happens when we're doing customer service, legal support, or research and development. The scope is known. The budget is already paid for, or it's a subscription fee. And so what we're going for is being able to solve the problem, some kind of innovation. And in these cases, what we're sourcing for is expertise. So for example, if you have a piece of software, you're going to pay a certain service agreement or a certain subscription in order to get support. The reason why you're willing to pay that is because those people are the experts in that software. So this is the comparison. We're going to talk a lot more about this in other parts of the course. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, some false comparisons. There are many false comparisons when it comes to Agile, Traditional, and Lean, and we want to make sure that you understand them clearly. First, all of these projects have a charter. There is no difference when it comes to Agile, Lean, or Traditional in terms of having a charter. Every project needs to know who are the players, what is the goal, what are the constraints, what are the risks. That's true no matter what. Then a plan. As we said before at the beginning of this lesson, we always have a plan. We also are willing to change that plan as we learn more as we go. But in Agile, it's continuous planning. So we do plan and we do predict, and that's how we can coordinate. Then there's documentation. Documentation is one of the key factors in terms of scalability as well as sustainability. If anyone leaves a project, oftentimes it is a document that's going to allow you to backfill that position with as minimal disruption as possible. So documentation is done as we go. Then there's design. Design is essential for any kind of project. And in fact, the difference with Agile is that we design as we open up each piece of work. And then testing. This is probably the area where Agile exceeds because there's testing all the time. We're continuously integrating and continuously testing as we go. That's the only way you can complete work in stages. So I'm going to start off with a little story here to kind of explain how varying scope helps to address some of the typical problems within a project. Imagine that you have a customer, and that customer wants to build a tree swing. The way they explain it to you is they talk about a 3-level tree swing with ropes. And then the project leader hears this and he says, oh, a tree swing. So it's going to be 2 ropes with a plank in between it, and it's not really going anywhere. Then the engineer takes a look at it and realizes, hey, we need a space for you to swing in between, so let's prop up the tree on either side, which doesn't make so much sense. Followed by the business consultant who hears about this tree swing and describes it as the second coming of tree swings all around. Of course, the project will never be documented. The customer is going to be billed like it's a roller coaster. It's going to be supported like the giving tree. And in the end, all the customer really needed was a tire swing. This is the reason why we vary scope, because we can quickly avoid a lot of these issues by putting the whole team together and limiting the amount of work done. So let's do a quick review. What is Agile? Agile is a methodology. It's not a framework. And the key aspect to it is that we need to have a shared vision that is robust to change. This allows us to vary scope as a team. We also need to have whole teams. We have to have the customer on the team, as well as the designers, the testers, and the developers. Only this way can we close work as we go. We also want to make sure that we're building in increments. This allows us to learn and get fast feedback. And then finally, continuous integration and testing. This allows us to know that we are completing the product in a way that will work in the future. And as we go, we can always deliver or stop the project and say, here's value. You don't have a whole bunch of work in progress that isn't complete. When we compare this to Scrum, XP, or SAFe, these tenets that we just gave you are the method. Scrum is a framework. It is the basic framework. It's the framework that most other frameworks are built on, but it is not the core values of Agile. So now that you have the Agile basics, we can talk about Scrum in a little bit more detail and understand it as a framework. We hope that you've enjoyed this lesson, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Hey there, did you enjoy that lesson as much as I did? If you did, go ahead and give us a like. If you want to see another one, go ahead and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, put them below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Moreover, is there somebody in your life who really needs this lesson right now? If so, go ahead and share it with them. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Now, we look forward to seeing you in the next lesson where you can learn even more from the University of Maryland Project Management Center for Excellence. Thanks so much.